I do my best to eat some bugs almost every day. I'm not talking about insects. Although, as I talked about in my 2022 episode on micro livestock, insects such as crickets and mealworms are gaining market share as a humane and environmentally sustainable source of high quality protein. But today, I'm talking about microscopic bugs, specifically the beneficial bacteria that are naturally present in foods like yogurt or kefir. Hello and welcome to the Nutrition Diva podcast. I'm your host, Monica Reinagel, and today we're taking a fresh look at probiotic foods. This was actually the subject of one of the very first episodes of the Nutrition Diva podcast way back in 2008, believe it or not. And it remains a topic that gets a lot of discussion. But we have learned a lot more about the diet and the microbiome since 2008, so I thought it would be good to update everyone's talking points with the latest information. Virtually every traditional cuisine features some sort of naturally fermented or cultured food. There's Japanese natto, Bulgarian yogurt, Polish sauerkraut, Korean kimchi. I could go on. And each of these plays a central role in that culture's cuisine, and for good reason. Modern research reveals that these ancient foods can have both short-term and long-term effects that can benefit our overall health. Firstly, probiotic foods contain beneficial microorganisms. Now, contrary to common beliefs, these bugs don't necessarily set up permanent housekeeping in our guts. They're actually more likely to be transient visitors. Even so, they do have a positive impact on the existing microbial ecosystem. During their temporary residence, the microbes from fermented foods produce bioactive peptides and metabolites that can interact with our existing gut microbiota, potentially influencing their behavior and their composition. Regular consumption of fermented foods appears to promote a more stable and diverse gut microbiome over time, and diversity is really where it's at. People who consistently consume probiotic foods may see improvements also in digestive health, enhanced immune function, and reduced inflammation. And additionally, fermented foods have been linked to improvements in some metabolic health markers like blood pressure and triglyceride levels. However, it is important to note that the effects can vary between individuals. And this is because factors like the rest of your diet or your pre-existing gut microbiome composition or medications that you may be taking or other medical conditions, all of those things, even the specific probiotic strains that you are consuming, all of those things can influence outcomes. In other words, your mileage may vary. Now, interestingly, when it comes to overall gut health, eating probiotic foods may even be more helpful than taking probiotic supplements. Fermented foods tend to contain a wider variety of microbial strains and beneficial compounds compared to most supplements. Some studies even suggest that probiotic supplements can actually decrease gut microbial diversity in certain cases, while fermented foods tend to increase it. Once again, diversity where it's at. Another advantage that probiotic foods have over supplements is, of course, the other nutrients that they are providing. So in addition to the beneficial bacteria, when you're consuming fermented dairy products, you're also getting protein and calcium. And fermented vegetables, well, they are vegetables with all the fiber, vitamins, and other nutrients that we get from vegetables. While we're on the topic of gut health, it's worth noting that if your goal is to build a healthier microbiome, eating more prebiotic foods might be even more important than consuming foods that contain beneficial bacteria. Prebiotics provide a food source for the bacteria in your gut, and therefore they directly impact the health and the composition of your gut microbiome. Now, prebiotic, of course, is just kind of a fancy word for fiber. But not everyone can tolerate the same amounts and types of fiber. In general, though, eating more fiber and a greater variety of fiber-containing foods is a great way to build a healthy gut microbiome. Now, fortunately, there's no need to choose between probiotics and prebiotics. I think your best approach is to leverage both of them. By incorporating a variety of fermented foods and a variety of fiber-rich foods into your diet, you're providing a double boost for your gut health. So if yogurt is the only fermented food in your diet, maybe it's time to branch out. With the upsurge of interest in the microbiome, as well as the interest in artisanal everything, there are more traditionally fermented foods in your standard grocery store than there used to be. Everything from pickled veggies to fermented soy to at least 12 different kinds of fermented dairy products. So here are some ideas to help you diversify your probiotic intake. Start your day, as many Japanese do, with a bowl of miso soup. This traditional Japanese fermented soybean paste is not only rich in probiotics, but it also adds a delicious umami flavor to your meals. Try adding some kimchi to a sandwich or salad, or my favorite, to an omelet. This spicy Korean fermented cabbage is packed with beneficial bacteria, and it really does add a zesty kick to your dishes. Try kombucha as a refreshing alternative to sugary drinks or alcoholic beverages. This fermented tea beverage is lightly effervescent, comes in a lot of different flavors. It's really fun to try. You could experiment with tempeh as a protein source. This is a fermented soybean cake, and its firm, sort of meaty texture makes it a great meat alternative. And of course, it is also rich in probiotics. And then don't forget about those traditional pickles. Look for naturally fermented varieties that haven't been pasteurized. Now, if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you want to learn to ferment your own sauerkraut or brew your own kombucha, I'll post a link for you do-it-yourself fermenters with the transcript of this episode to a good resource for more information and supplies. Either way, however, I try to include at least one serving of some fermented food in my diet every day. You might want to try to do the same. Now, one final thought. I often get emails from listeners asking about whether cooking their miso or their tempeh or their sauerkraut is going to render it useless. Now, it is true that heat will deactivate or kill the bacteria, but even cooked probiotic foods can still deliver benefits via some of those metabolites and peptides that the bacteria create before they get cooked. Still, to get the most benefit from the beneficial beasties, you want to try to avoid extended heating or cooking times. And seeing as gut health and the microbiome are such a hot topic these days, we have created a special playlist to spotlight a handful of Nutrition Diva episodes on this topic. So if you'd like to take a deeper dive into this fascinating subject, you'll find a link to that in the show notes for today's episode. And if you have a question you'd like me to answer, you can email it to me at nutrition@quickanddirtytips.com. You can also leave me a voicemail at 443-961-6206. Nutrition Diva is a Quick and Dirty Tips podcast. Our team includes Brandon Getchis, Nathan Sems, Davina Tomlin, Holly Hutchings, and Morgan Christensen. That's all for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back next week.